really good.
All right, you ready?
All right, really good.
Right, it was still well above. Right.
Yeah. Good job, buddy.
So now it's my great pleasure to be joined by U.S. Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who has been a longtime advocate for legislation to help prevent drowning of our youngest citizens. Debbie, so great to see you.
Great to see you too, Cindy. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. You have advocated for this issue since you were in the state legislature.
Yeah.
And obviously you've been successful. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you've gotten passed?
Sure. When I was in the State House of Representatives back in the late 1990s, I was a member of the National Safety Council Board of Directors locally, and I, during my orientation, had a presentation from Safe Kids Worldwide. They came and talked about how the #1 killer of children younger than 5 years old in Florida was drowning in residential pools. And it was really right as my husband and I were trying to begin to start a family, and then really a year later, we had our first kids. I gave birth to our twins. And so it was very, sort of an in-your-face moment for me that, #1, something entirely preventable, a tragedy that was entirely preventable, had nothing really in the law that required there be safety equipment in the path of a young child, when supervision lapsed. And then the statistic that was even more sobering was that you have 4 times as many near drownings as drownings that actually result in a death. So, and those near drownings often leave children with severe disabilities, brain damage, and the healthcare costs, let alone the tragedy that families have to deal with in the aftermath of that, are just a nightmare. So in 1998, I filed legislation called the Preston D. Iburn Miriam McKenzie Residential Swimming Pool Safety Act. That was a Florida state bill that took me 3 years to pass, and it eventually passed in 2000. It was signed into law. It took effect on October 1st of 2000. So as of October 1st of 2000, in Florida, any new residential swimming pool built has to have one of 4 safety pieces of safety equipment in or around it: a pool safety fence, a pool safety cover, a self-closing, self-latching mechanism on the doors and windows leading to the pool area, doors leading to the pool area, excuse me, or continuous sounding door and window alarms on the doors and windows leading to the pool area. Because, look, as a mom of 3 kids, my kids are preteen and teens now, and they know how to swim, but you still have to recognize that even the best parents, supervision lapses. It's
You have to go to the bathroom.
Exactly.
You're cooking dinner. Things happen.
Things happen. And so when that supervision lapses, even for a moment, having an obstacle in the path of that young child to make it less likely that they will end up at the bottom of a pool is critical. Now that's the law in Florida. And when I was elected to Congress in 2004, I immediately filed federal pool safety legislation because the #2 killer of children under 14 years old in the entire country is drowning in residential pools. Crazy. It's just stunning. So in 2007, I was able to pass legislation called the Virginia Graham-Baker Pool and Spa Safety Act. That bill did 2 things. It provided grant funding to state and eventually local governments to pass their own state and local ordinances to put those same safety equipment requirements in place. And then it also, because there was a terrible suction drain entrapment problem, which I'll describe to you. Virginia Graham-Baker was the granddaughter of former Secretary of State James Baker. She was 7 years old. She was in the backyard at a graduation party with her 5 sisters and her mom. And all of a sudden, her twin went running to their mom, Nancy Baker, and said, Mom, Graham's at the bottom of the pool. And the strength of several men could not pull her off because she had been suctioned. The suction on the drain was, because the drain cover was broken, was so intense that they could not pry her off, and she drowned. And she died because she was held underneath. Well, in the law, we included a requirement that every public swimming pool in the country, since the bill became law in 2007, requires a safety drain cover, so that it's a raised cover, so that you break the suction. Because with the air pocket, I mean, I'm not an engineer, but
Right.
essentially the redesign of those covers, instead of flat metal covers, you'll look now at most public pools, they'll have a safety drain cover, and we have not had a suction drain entrapment death since the Virginia Graham-Baker bill became law.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. But we have a lot more to go, a lot more work to do, because we still have young children drown because too many people leave the back door unlocked. They'll go change the clothes from the washer to the dryer, and they don't have anyone watching their child, and there's no fence around the pool. There's no alarm noise or beeping tone, which you can go and buy a cheap alarm that you can stick to the door so you know when it opens and you can hear it. But unfortunately, too many people get lulled into this false sense of security, and they think it's going to be fine until it isn't.
Right. And that's why the multiple barriers are so important.
Yes.
And also, I think
Multiple layers, it's important to say that.
multiple layers of protection.
Multiple layers of protection, because when one layer lapses, then you've got another layer in place. Now, you can only have so much protection, but self-closing, self-latching mechanisms on the gate of your fenced-in yard. Make sure your yard is fenced in if you have a pool. That's required in South Florida anyway. But
Right, because not only for your child, but you don't want to find somebody else's child
that's
in
right.
your pool.
Cindy, 65% of the drownings take place in the backyard of where the child, in the home of the backyard of the home where the child was last seen, but 35% of the drownings take place in the pool of a neighbor, where the child wanders out their own door, down the street, or right next door, gets into the yard because there's no latch, or it's very easy to get into the yard, and there's no fence, and they fall in the pool. So people think that, I mean, like I said, my kids are preteen and teen now, but we still have our pool safety fences, our alarms, our door latches, our fence latches, because we know there's kids in our neighborhood, and you just never know.
And the way those latch is so important too.
Yes.
Because you want to make it something that your child cannot outwit.
Exactly, because
And they are pretty wily, those little ones.
They are, and they will reach over, or they'll try to push something up against the wall, against the fence, and try to climb over. What you have to do is you have to make sure it's at least 5 feet, the latch, and that it is over the other side of the fence, and that there's a plastic lucite, like a plastic piece against the fence, so they can't stick their hand through to unlatch it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
they're pretty clever
very
that
determined.
way. They are.
Very determined.
So one other piece about being vigilant and watching that I wanted to share with you, the YMCA has created these little badges
They're
about
fantastic.
I'm a water watcher.
That's right.
Because you also have that situation where you can have a lot of adults around the pool,
That's
and
what happened
everybody
to
thinks
that's what happened to the Graham-Baker.
right. Everybody thinks
backyard
someone
is full.
else is watching them. So when you're wearing this badge,
Exactly.
you are responsible. Let
That's
me
right.
give that to you. I know
So
you
what
don't need it because
no,
you have
and I will
one.
put it on and when you put this on, the I'm a Water Watcher badge, you are consciously accepting responsibility for watching whoever the kids are that are in the pool. It is really critical because, you don't have to do it the whole time because everybody wants to enjoy, a nice afternoon, but, while you have this on, you are the one that is keeping your eyes on the pool, keeping your eyes around the backyard to make sure that you are keeping track of where the kids are. The other important thing, Cindy, is swim lessons.
Oh, yes.
It is never too early to start, but making sure that children have the ability to get themselves out of the water if they have accidentally fallen in, but then, of course, the most important thing is to teach them to be swimmers. Get them swim lessons. We have Swim Central in Broward County, which gives any child that needs it access to swim lessons at a local pool, and those lessons are the costs are covered on a sliding scale, so by the Children's Services Council, because we knew about 10 years ago that we didn't want cost to be a barrier to the children of Broward County. And thankfully, when we passed the Children's Services Council, which, by the way, when it's on the ballot in November, I would urge everyone in Broward County to vote to continue the incredible work that you do at the Children's Services Council, because making sure that we can improve the quality of life of children is probably one of our most important responsibilities.
Thank you. And I don't want any parent who themselves can't swim, I want them to know that they can get lessons, or if they're afraid, that when they take their baby for a mommy or a daddy and me, they don't have to be able to swim.
No.
They just have to be willing to stand in the water up to here and make sure that their baby knows how to float on their back, knows how to get to the side and hold on.
That's right. It's just important that you, as early as you can, start getting your child familiar with water. And let's also stress, this is a particular problem with minority kids. The overwhelming majority of drownings that take place in Florida and in the country are African American little boys. And then the next highest percentage of kids that drown are Hispanic kids, because you have a disproportionate number of African American and Hispanic children that don't know how to swim, and their adults, their parents don't know how to swim. So let me also suggest that adults go and get swim lessons. If you don't know how to swim, making sure that you have that knowledge of water and familiarity and comfort around water is going to help you be able to possibly save your own child, but also save yourself, because we live in Florida. There is water everywhere.
And I would encourage everyone to call 954-357-SWIMS or 211, which is that easy to remember number, and find a pool near them who can offer those lessons.
Thankfully, we passed a bond issue a number of years ago that built pools all over, public pools all over the county. We have very easily accessible swimming pools in Broward. We have Swim Central that can provide those free swimming lessons if you need a little assistance in paying for them. And there's even transportation in some cases when you need to get kids from a school or a daycare center to a local swimming pool.
And one of the newest innovations, I'm not sure if it's come to you yet, is the YMCA has started a mobile swim lessons.
Oh, really?
So if you live in a complex, yes, this is brand new.
Oh, fantastic.
If you live in a complex and you can get a group of children together, so, and the parents, to call the YMCA, and they'll even come to you.
So they'll do it in like the condo swimming pool with a group of parents. That's fantastic.
Yes.
That's great.
So there are no excuses. Yeah. Please, parents, get out there and find those lessons.
That's right.
Put those barriers in place. Debbie was a great leader in this issue in making sure that the laws are in place. Check with your condo, check in your homeowners group that your fences are in place, that they're self-latching, that the pools are clean. She can pass the laws, but we have to make sure they're enforced.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for all that you've done.
Thank you, Cindy.
You're really incredible. A pleasure.
The work of the Children's Service Council has been absolutely amazing. I'm so proud to have been involved with it.
Well, thank you for making sure we exist.
You're welcome.
Thank you for tuning in to this special edition of Future First, Focus on Broward's Children, where we've been focusing on preventing that most preventable death, the drowning of our most precious asset, our children. I want to thank my guests today, Cassie McGovern, Kim Burgess, Jay Sanford, Ken Rowland, and U.S. Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I've been your host, Cindy Ehrenberg-Seltzer, President and CEO of the Children's Services Council of Broward County, where our mission is to help Broward's children grow into responsible, productive adults. For a copy of this episode of Future First or any other, please go to our website, www.cscbroward, call us at 954-377-1000, like us on Facebook, and remember to tune in next time for another edition of Future First, Focus on Broward's Children.